Report: LeBron James ignoring Lakers coach Luke Walton's play calls. The Lakers' plan of using more? They scrapped it amid injuries to and it not really working. LeBron is an all-time great scorer and passer. Putting the ball in his hands optimizes his team. The best argument for not running everything through him is sacrificing in the short term to save his energy for down the road. With LeBron handling the ball more, an old issue for him has re-emerged. The scouts also have noticed that when James is running the point, he rarely looks toward the bench to receive play calls from coach Luke Walton. Even when he has seen them, the scouts say, he ignores them and runs the play he prefers. Walton has adjusted, and now when James is running the show, Walton will typically just let him call the game. This became a major talking point when LeBron did the same thing with former Cavaliers coach David Blatt. We've come a long way in treating coaches as mere coworkers, not necessarily bosses, of star players. LeBron is an incredibly smart player capable of calling a good play. I trust him to do it more than I trust Luke Walton. Plus, LeBron calling the play on the fly rather than looking toward the bench means the Lakers can get into it more quickly. Teams generally score more efficiently when pushing the tempo, and that's especially true of these Lakers. This shouldn't be seen as controversial or negative. This is Walton, adapting to LeBron for the betterment of the team. Every few years, Gregg Popovich grumbles about how much even with the NBA hoisting an all-time high 35% of total shots from beyond the arc this season, the Spurs president coach isn't relenting. Just 27% of the Spurs shots are three-pointers, the league's second lowest mark. And San Antonio has ranked well below average in three-point attempt rate in recent years. Here's a history of the NBA's three-point attempt rate, black, and San Antonio's three-point attempt rate, silver. Popovich: these days there's such an emphasis on the three because it's proven to be analytically correct, Popovich Monday offered with what appeared to be a sneer. Now you look at a stat sheet after a game and the first thing you look at is the threes. If you made threes and the other team didn't, you win. You don't even look at the rebounds or the turnovers or how much transition D was involved. You don't even care. That's how much an impact the three-point shot has, and it's evidenced by how everybody plays. I hate it, but I always have, Popovich said, even as he's adjusted over the years. I've hated the three for 20 years. That's why I make a joke all the time, and say, if we're going to make it a different game, let's have a four-point play. Because if everybody likes the three, they'll really like the four. People will jump out of their seats if you have a five-point play. It will be great. There's no basketball anymore, there's no beauty in it. It's pretty boring. But it is what it is and you need to work with it. First of all, as Popovich acknowledged, shooting a lot of threes is generally a good strategy. They're efficient shots that also provide spacing, leading to more efficient attempts inside the arc. Until recently, Popovich reluctantly had his team shoot a healthy amount of three-pointers relative to league average. Lately, San Antonio's play has matched his rhetoric. Sure, there are advantages to the Spurs style. By de-emphasizing three-pointers and going to more isolations and post-ups, they avoid turnovers and control pace. It helps their defense set and become more effective. But there's a ceiling on that style. It's hard to build a high-end offense that way, and San Antonio's is only middling. Though acquiring mid-range masters like and helps, personnel goes only so far. Popovich is still a great coach. It's hard to read this quote and watch the Spurs play and believe he holds as large an advantage over his peers as he once did. Again, Popovich knows the importance of three-pointers. His team doesn't completely forgo long-distance shots. It sounds as if he just preferred the game be played differently. But I don't understand even that gripe. What's more fundamental to basketball than shooting? How have old-school coaches like Popovich demonized? Shooting is the purest aspect of basketball. In 2014, Charlotte point guard signed a 4-year, $48 million contract extension. He's earning just $12 million this season in the final year of that deal. Meanwhile, many lesser players are earning far more, because they signed after new national TV contracts skyrocketed the salary cap in 2016. I asked Walker last season whether he regretted locking in for so long rather than signing a short extension that would have positioned him to receive the new TV money sooner. At the time, I thought the deal I signed was for the way I played, Walker said. I was still shooting 30% from the three-point line and things like that. And I wasn't really not mentioned when they mentioned a lot of top-tier point guards. Now, Walker is averaging 27.4 points and 6.4 assists per game, shooting 38% on three-pointers and ranks third in offensive real plus-minus. But that humble attitude apparently affected 2014 negotiations between his agent, Jeff Schwartz, and Charlotte, and how Walker sees himself now, Schwartz wanted $12 million per season. Charlotte's offer topped out at $10 million. As the October 31st deadline approached, Walker pushed Schwartz to accept Charlotte's offer. If Schwartz wouldn't, Walker threatened to call the team and do it himself, according to both. He might be more than an all-star. He might be a superstar. I don't think of myself that way, he says. It's strange. I don't think Walker is a superstar, though Lowe excellently details Walker's rise in a story I recommend. Walker is still limited defensively due to his 6'1" frame and heavy offensive burden. Plus, he hasn't maintained this elevated level of play long enough. But Walker might soon get paid like a superstar. The Hornets are built around him and apparently, Walker will enter unrestricted free agency next summer. His max contract projects to be worth about $190 million over 5 years, or, if he makes an All-NBA team this season, about $221 million over 5 years. Will Walker push for that much? His max from another team projects to be about $141 million over 4 years. But the Hornets are so jammed if they lose Walker, he might not need outside leverage to get Charlotte's max, if he has the stomach to drive a hard bargain. Not every player does. Also keep in mind, Walker will be 29 when his next contract begins. That's an age many small guards begin to decline. A 5-year max, let alone supermax, deal could look quite ugly before it ends. If the Hornets give that much money to Walker and he declines over the contract, the quote about him not even viewing himself a superstar, even if said with a pleasing humbleness, could be haunting. Made 6 shots last night? They were all awesome. Doncic finished with 20 points in the Mavericks' 128-108 win over the Rockets. When Damian Lillard gets hot, yes, I believe in the hot hand theory, so sue me, there is no more dangerous player in the NBA. Wednesday night, Lillard was hot, 10 three-pointers made on his way to 41 points, sparking a 115-112 win over Orlando. Lillard was 10 of 15 from 3 on the night. The previous Portland record had been 9 threes in a game, which Lillard co-held with. The Blazers also tied a team record with 12 threes in the first half. They ended up needing all of that against a pesky Orlando team that is playing everyone tough right now. The scuffling Utah Jazz got a little better on Wednesday. For one thing, the Jazz got back from injury, their offense looked less bad, not quite good, but better, as Utah got a win on the road in Brooklyn. That improved the Jazz to 10-12 and moved them up to 13th in the crowded West, still way below expectations. We all thought this was a top 3 team in the West before the season. Utah also got better because they traded for Kyle Korver. The Jazz are sending in 2 future second-round picks, theirs in 2020 and the Wizards in 2021, to Cleveland for the 37-year-old sharpshooter. The trade should make Utah a little better, but it isn't a game-changer. They still need a high-quality secondary playmaker to take some of the pressure off Mitchell. However, Korver should help the second unit. As a team, the Jazz have struggled from 3 this season, shooting 31.9%, third worst in the league. Has carried the team's shooting load, hitting 38.5% from 3 on 6 attempts per game, but the rest of the team combined is shooting 30.2% from deep. Donovan Mitchell is taking 6.7 threes a game and hitting 28.9%, is 6.2 per game and is knocking down 29.2%, and even, drafted out of Duke as a shooter, is at 28.6%. Second Spectrum tracking data shows the Jazz as a team are generating good looks but not hitting the shot. Utah as a team is shooting 31.1% on open threes, defender 4 to 6 feet away, and 34.5% on wide open threes, defender more than 6 feet away. Utah's shooting percentage on those is 6th worst in the league. Korver is shooting 46.3% from beyond the arc this season on 3.4 attempts per game. The Jazz need that. Expect Korver to play with Utah's second unit. The Jazz have really struggled with their shooting and spacing. The second Ingles goes to the bench. Now Korver will come in and provide some of that shooting. Korver is 37 and will be 38 before the playoffs start. He doesn't move as well as he once did and the Jazz will get torched a few times on defense because of him, but when the Jazz have the ball, defenders can't leave him. The Jazz are a system team. They can run Korver off a series of picks to get him looks and the defenses will have to respect him. Korver isn't the answer to all the Jazz problems. Their defense has been average this season, and just bad when sits, and they need another playmaker, but he helps them in a key area. Korver makes them better. And the price was not that steep, but was as good a haul as Cleveland could expect. Burks can give them some nightly minutes on the wing this season, and he is in the last year of his contract, so he helps free up some cap space for Cleveland. With this deal happening now, it's also possible the Cavs could flip Burks in another deal at the trade deadline. The 2 second-round pick is about right. No team was giving up a first for Korver, and that 2021 Washington one has the potential to be a high second-rounder with some real value. Going into this season we expected the Rockets to be the second-best team in the West, third best at worst. It felt like they took a step back in the offseason on the wing, but this team still had the MVP, plus and. After getting crushed by Dallas 128-108 on Wednesday, the 9-11 Rockets are the 14th seed in the West. The good news for Houston is it's the crowded West, so it is just 1.5 games out of the playoffs and, amazingly, 5 games out of first place. The Rockets were without Chris Paul again Wednesday, hamstring, and guys missing time has been one factor in the slow start for the Rockets. But it's more than that. Is gone. Jeff Bzdelik is back on the bench as an assistant coach, and yet the defense is still a disaster, third worst in the NBA for the season, worst in the NBA by 5.1 points per 100 possessions in the last 5 games. The Rockets roster is top-heavy, but that's how it is with contenders. The Warriors have the same situation. The problem in Houston is Daryl Morey's off-season bets on role players have not worked out at all. It's not just that, and are gone, it's that their replacements, Carmelo Anthony, have not worked out. At all. Then you throw in the injuries, not just to CP3 but to Nene, and you have a team that just lacks depth and continuity. The nights Harden can't bail them out, they lose, and sometimes, even when he drops 54, they lose. When the Rockets get healthy they will be good enough to make the playoffs. The team is 8-4 when both Paul and Harden play, but they are not the team we thought they could be. Morey is actively looking for trades that will help fill in the wing depth, but that may be too little, too late at this point. Kids, this is why your coaches preach rebounding. Milwaukee grabbed 3 offensive rebounds in the final 10 seconds, eventually kicking the ball out to Middleton who drained a 3 and gave the Bucks a 116-113 win over the Bulls Wednesday.